Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Mark Wormsley, and I'm the founder of the Arts and Culture Network. We're a growing global community of just over 160,000 now across our 8 LinkedIn groups. As you can imagine, I don't get to meet everybody, but when I do, it's a pleasure. And that is absolutely the case today because Sarah Dowd has joined me, and Sarah is one of our full members. Currently basking in 40 degrees in France, but normally based in Cambridge. So we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to create Sarah's fantasy cultural year from the answers to 10 or so easy questions, to which there are no wrong answers. That's my kind of quiz. And if there's time, we'll play the this or that game, and I'm trialing some new questions for that today. So that's the plan. Sarah, lovely. Thank you so much for joining us as a full member. As you know, we're entirely member funded as a community so that we can remain independent. This is your chance to say hi to everyone. Tell us what makes you tick, what gets you up in the morning, why you're in France would be nice, and the brands that you're in the middle of and the work that you do, and perhaps tell us what your superpower is and where your passions lie in the arts. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful. I think probably I'll start with my superpower and my passions first, because I think that helps to give a bit of context to the type of art, heritage, cultural work that I do on a day-to-day basis. So I believe that my superpower is my ADHD. I was diagnosed earlier this year, and I have gone through life incredibly passionate about things. I've always had a creative practice in whether it's in theater directing, visual art, graphic design. Sadly, although I love music, I am the worst musician in the world. So I leave that to better halves. And I started out as a kid just being totally in love with theater, and that was given to me as a passion by my dad. And conversely, he gained that passion from my godfather, who was his high school English and drama teacher in the late 1960s. And he came from Britain and he came to Canada, and he ended up teaching my dad and his three brothers all of the English literature, things like that, doing drama. And my dad ended up moving to the UK in the early 70s, met my mom. So I'm a dual Canadian British lineage. And that sort of love of theater and the arts just was absolutely embedded from the very beginning. And so obviously, I always knew I was different. I didn't have a name for what that difference was. I found out earlier this year it does have one. It's ADHD. And I also found out a lot about how, what we understand as ADHD is really not what it often is for different people. So that I see that as a superpower because what I've always been able to do, and I've never been able to sort of explain how I do it, is I'm incredibly good at making creative conceptual connections to things. And as a result, I'm also very entrepreneurial. So I have 4 separate businesses, all in the cultural sector. So if anyone tells you that, you can't be a fantastic entrepreneur and a creative practitioner, that's just a bold-faced lie. And, it's one of the most satisfying work that I've ever been able to do, is actually make a living and create a legacy in this sector, doing something exceptional. So, example, I've raised 200 million pounds in the last 15 years for culture, arts, and heritage. I founded my first company 15 years ago in 2010, and that's called the Tricolor Collective. And then in about 2015, I founded a CIC, a charitable interest company called Heritage for All. We've been doing some small projects around that. We did something particularly in COVID, which was a nice sort of artistic project of trying to get people to talk about their stories and their experiences of pandemic at the time. And then most recently, I am the co-founder of a company called Les Raconteurs, and we are a story sourcing, creative packaging, sort of development company for multi-platform experiences. So everything from immersive to film, location, series planning, working alongside partners who have relationships with Netflix, as an example, looking at, developing documentary series, sort of the whole kit and caboodle. That's sort of a really exciting sort of wing to what we're doing. And it's all creative practice. We actually are all about, developing creative and arts out of Les Raconteurs, and working with as many amazing artists, writers, musicians, you name it. If you've got a creative practice in you, then we want to hear from you. And then finally, for my sins, I decided that I should start a podcast because I didn't have enough to do already. And on the side, by the way, I run my own community theater company called The Publican's Men. Anyone who knows their Shakespeare a little bit knows that there was the King's Men and the Admiral's Men and the Chamberlain's Men. Well, me and my friends, we used to like meeting at the pub. So we became the Publican's Men, and we are a small touring group that we do. We've toured different parts of the UK, and we did not last year, the summer before, Streetcar Named Desire in the Dordogne. So yeah, I starting my own podcast called History for Fuck's Sake. You might want to bleep that, but or History FFS. I don't tend to bleep it, but it's sort of come out of a passion that I have for actually the arts, culture, and heritage are not three separate things. They're all part of the same cycle. There are what makes us human, and the heritage and our history is just sort of looking at the things that we're doing now, and how we preserve, capture what we're doing now, and tell that story to future audiences as well. So I'm really passionate about making sure that those people who don't work in the arts, culture, creative industries, heritage industries, understand that actually what we do is fundamental to our humanity. And it's not an add-on. It's not a waste of your life. It's not a something that you do when your parents want you to go and become a doctor or a lawyer or things like that. It's what makes us human, and that's what I'm so proud of. And my mission is to make as many people as I possibly can love history and its connection to arts and culture. And that's why History for Fuck's Sake is a podcast all about actually how history is portrayed through art, through culture. So we're talking about everything from the 40th anniversary of the film Back to the Future, and how that is being viewed on TikTok, down to talking about with a playwright who I work with about Windrush and the different interpretations through art of the Windrush experience, down to other things such as the 50th anniversary of the Stephen King's Carrie, and how there are different movements within the UK about trying to bring back British horror from the 1960s and 70s. So I'm very meta in a very non-Facebooky way. What I mean, a very meta approach in terms of trying to fundamentally shift the dial for how our society views and values arts, culture, history, creative industries, a lot.
That wonderful. That's great. Now there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of people out there who will have benefited from the experiences that you've worked on and created. So on their behalf, thank you so much for all of that work. Heaven knows when you sleep.
I don't a lot.
You've reminded me of a talk that we presented at one of our events a year or so ago. Was a music researcher from Vienna, and she pointed out music has no tangible human survival benefit,
Mm,
yet it's ubiquitous in every society in the world.
mm,
And then from that, I decided I still might try and do it, but I think Saint Cecilia is the patron saint of musicians.
mm,
And I think her day is on like the 26th of November or something like that. I wanted to start calling that day No Music Day. So you ban music for the whole day. So
mm.
that's no radio, no television, no Spotify, nothing. And just to remind everybody how important it is,
Yet you
and
can't ban birdsong, can you?
no,
Makes
no.
phone music as
There we
well.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's no accident that the cuckoo is a major third and the foundation of most Western music.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. We'll be transcribing this and creating a profile, and we'll put links to all of the wonderful things that you're doing. So that's wonderful. Thank you. So I'm going to have some fun now based on what you've just told me.
Mhm.
So I love the idea of this convergence of arts, culture, music, drama, literature as a kind of track of history.
Mhm.
Okay. And you wouldn't have to go far to think of pieces of work that are rooted in that time. Music, painting, drama. So I think what we'll do, I'm going to create with you a fantasy cultural year. Now, I'm hoping you'll have time to do this.
Okay.
But in order to do this and to start it, I need to place you somewhere in the world. So I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite building?
Oh, what's my favorite building? Um, Actually, I think I wouldn't. I don't think I can say I have a favorite building, but I think the building that really is very memorable to me is, and I'm not even sure what it's called anymore, but it used to be called BCE Place in downtown Toronto, which is where I'm from. And the reason why I love it is because it was the very first time I saw a brand new sort of skyscraper, which had just been built, actually actually yeah, BC Place. There you go. If you go far to the far right or just over the flicker, there you go, you see it right there. So it's the first time I ever saw a historic building incorporated into a modern building like that. And my dad took me to see it when I was probably about 10 or 12. And I was just stunned by the sort of the scale of the building, but also how it was incredibly sensitive for them
Hmm.
to actually incorporate the historic building within it and not tear it down. And that's also really unusual in a North American setting. Not so much anymore. They do some incredible stuff in New York, for example. And
Mm.
it was this that when I am working on different projects around regeneration, placemaking, how we connect the future, the present, and the past, that I'm always reminded of. And it's this place that, sort of a bit of a touchstone for me.
That's wonderful. I love that. You've reminded, I did an interview a little earlier today, and with an art historian who she's currently curator for a company in London, big company. It's a kind of internship, but her little slogan was, I use art to turn space into place.
Brilliant.
And
Love
I
it.
loved it. I thought that was perfect. Anyway, right. Okay. So I'd like you to imagine you're sitting at this cafe here.
Okay. That
Okay.
used to be the Movenpick, but yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. It's
I don't know
probably
what it is now.
no.
Yeah.
And there is a book by your side.
Mm,
Okay. It could be your favorite book. It could be a recent discovery. It could be a book that's been with you all your life
mm,
or even changed your life. So
mm.
what book would we find on the table there next to you, Sarah?
Virginia Woolf's Orlando.
Wonderful choice. And there's a drink next to you. What will we find? It's 6
Oh,
p.m. on a summer evening.
it's 6 p.m. on a summer evening. Well, all of my friends and family, if are shouting red wine at the camera now. So it definitely would be red wine.
Brilliant. Love it. Now you're feeling quite pleased with yourself because you've just come from a meeting inside the BCE Centre, BCE Place, and you've met the representatives of a wealthy Canadian family foundation. Okay. And they've got wind of the work, the wonderful work that you do, in particular about how the arts illustrate and bring history to life in different ways. They'd like to hire you for a year, okay, at great expense, first class all the way.
Oh, that'd be the first time.
Your businesses will be looked after. Your friends and family can come and visit, but they want you to travel the world to create a league, a global league table, if you like, of how different societies around the world merge history, heritage, arts, and culture to try and so that they can invest where it's lacking. Okay. There's a TED talk in it when you get back. Okay. A TV crew will follow you everywhere. There's a book deal. And once you've completed your fantasy cultural year, you'll get to do a global university lecture tour. Okay. Does that sound like fun?
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Great.
That's very much my cup of tea.
Right. So all you have to do is to decide in what city you'd like to start.
In what city would I like to start? I think that we have to start at places that are at the highest risk of losing their culture or losing their history. In Britain, we have the Heritage at Risk Register. I think that there are places where culture is at major risk. And I would say we would start in Los Angeles.
Okay. Right. You're on the plane.
Yeah.
Okay. From Toronto to LA. You turned left when you got on the plane, by the way, because
Okay, that's nice, yeah.
and the steward brings you a large glass of red wine and a note from the Family Foundation back in Toronto. They've got a bit of a challenge for you. They'd like you to limit your musical intake to one very specific genre of music, to the exclusion of all else for 12 months. What would you choose?
Oh, it's so hard because I've got really weird kind of diverse taste in music. The music that I could never ever get tired of is I love all reggae, rock steady music. I just think it's history in its own right. It's authentic, and I just enjoy it, you know. And I've never even been to the Caribbean before. I just happened to. I really found when I was probably about an early teen, discovered I liked, sort of late 60s, sort of early 70s, sort of rock steady, sort of reggae kind of stuff.
Nice. One of my biggest regrets is missing the concert I could have gone to with Bob Marley at the Rainbow. That would have been wonderful to go to, but
Amazing. Yeah.
1978, I think it was. And he died in 81, so I didn't get another chance, but that's a wonderful choice. Excellent. Now, you arrive in LA and a group of young history of art and arts and culture students take you under their wing, whisk you off to a beautiful Hollywood home, which is going to be your base. You've got staff and transport. They say, okay, settle in, unpack, relax. We're going to come back later and take you to a dance performance and then out to dinner. Now, I should point out that I have in my possession a magic wand and a time machine for the purposes of this interview, okay, because it's a fantasy year. So you can choose any kind of dance performance that I'm going to put on the stage in front of you. Any style, any dancers, living or not, any group. So what dance performance can I put on the stage in front of you?
Oh God, that's really hard. For me, I a bit like music. dance is so not my cup of tea. I feel very, I did it, stepping out. I performed in stepping out, a tap dancing. Um, and so I had to learn how to tap dance badly. And that's the extent of sort of my dance. And I look at choreographer friends of mine and I think, holy moly, you're just, how do you even think like this, to actually be able to put that kind of physicality into it. But I'd have to say I love the 1940s, like major dance uh sort of scenes that they did in sort of the 1940s films that
Gene
they,
Kelly.
yeah, I love all of that. But I think that one of the films that really stands out to me in the last sort of 15 years, they did a really good job. Well, two of them, there's The Artist, but then there's also, it was Hail Caesar, and it was Channing Tatum and his sort of take on the sort of 1940s, sort of they're all dressed as sailors and doing that sort of dance. So I think it's a sort of a 1940s tap experience.
That's
Yeah.
you can have that.
Yeah.
Earl Hines will be on the stage.
Okay.
Now you get to choose the cuisine for dinner. You don't have to stay in American culture. You can have LA is full of wonderful restaurants from all over the world. So what's your cuisine of choice?
Uh, well, Mexican, but like proper Mexican, not Tex-Mexican. I've got a great friend I went to university with at Goldsmiths College, and she and I were roommates, and she was from Mexico City, and she taught me all sorts of amazing sort of Mexican recipes. And it's just, I mean, LA, it's other than being in Mexico itself, that's the place to get Mexican food.
That's done. A proper authentic Mexican restaurant
Yeah.
in LA. Perfect. Now we're going to buzz again to a different city. Where are we going?
Right. Well, I mean, I think LA is important because I think that with the uh the changing politics in the United States, there's real risk, commercially as well, about culture and arts at risk. And that's not just in LA, but LA has got such um a medium to actually speak to the world about culture and arts through the film industry. So where would I want to go next in terms of heritage and culture? That's going to make a difference in terms of what I'm doing. I think, and it would be impossible, but I would really love to do some sort of work in Afghanistan, particularly with women, and exploring women's stories through the arts in regimes that are very anti-women. So I think that would be a really important thing.
Okay, we're
to do.
going to Kabul,
Mhm.
and we're jumping ahead 10 years.
Okay.
Okay, and things have changed.
Mhm.
I've seen images of what Tehran was like in the early 1970s, and it was like walking down Miami's, a street in Miami with the dress and the relaxed approach.
Mhm.
So let's assume it's that things have changed for the better in Afghanistan.
Mhm.
And it's sport day in
Okay.
Afghanistan. Okay. Now we had breakdancing in the Olympics last
Mhm.
year. So some sport could be considered performance art.
Mhm.
Now you don't have to stay in Afghan culture. You can have anything you like. But if I had to put the world championships of some kind of sporting event in front of you in Kabul in 10 years' time, what would it be?
Oh, it's got to be women's synchronized swimming.
Wow.
It
Love that.
has to be.
Yeah. Well, the
Mhm.
world championships just happened to be in Kabul
Wow. Now that would be a change.
and you've got the best seat in the house. Excellent. Let's buzz again, shall we? Where are we going?
Where are we going? Where have I never been to that I'd like to go to? I would love to go to Mumbai. And
Mumbai. Fantastic. Now in Mumbai, in our fantasy world, there is a new digitally enhanced art gallery.
Mhm.
and you can put on a pair of virtual reality headsets and you can step into the work of a famous artist.
Mhm.
It becomes three-dimensional. It becomes 360 degrees. It might be animated. You can walk around inside the painting and there might be sound. Which
Mhm.
famous artist's work would you like to explore in that way?
Oh, famous artist work in an immersive experience. I mean, they already exist, but I love Salvador Dali. Um, I think any of the sort of the major surrealist painters of the actually I should say not surrealist, but Marc Chagall, the windows at Prague Cathedral. Seeing Marc Chagall, I think, in an immersive experience would bring tears to your eyes.
Yeah, I
You know,
have an anecdote to share. I was hired once to produce a set of 25 CDs back in the day for a lady who lived next to the American Embassy in London.
mm,
She was very wealthy, and her mother was a great concert pianist, and her father was an art collector. And
mm,
he used to bail out struggling artists and pay their rent in return for some of their work.
wow.
And that included Marc Chagall, Klimt,
Mm,
Mondrian, and Kandinsky. And when I
mm,
went to meet her, there were two grand pianos, full-size grand pianos in her sitting room. And I looked up on the wall and there were two Marc Chagalls on the wall.
mhm,
And she told me the story that Marc Chagall had given one of those paintings to her father because he bailed him out. Um, but that he hadn't signed it. And before he died, they traveled to Saint Paul de Vence
mm,
with the painting. It was only about this big. um, to see if he would be kind enough to confirm its provenance and sign it. And he was so delighted to see him after all this time. Not only did he sign it and catalog, and make sure it was authenticated, he gave them another one.
wow.
And at the time, I don't know whether he is now, but he was, I think, the 14th most valuable artist at the time. So that's my Marc Chagall story.
Marc Chagall is just it's beautiful the work he's
Yeah.
done. His connection to Fiddler on the Roof, which we could talk about at another time. Uh,
Mm.
I love his work. I own a Marc Chagall lithograph. It's one of
Oh,
my,
wow.
few things that I've managed to sort of to you know to
That's
feel like
great.
I'm a guardian of.
Yeah. Now I'm going to whisk you back to London.
Okay.
Okay. And you and I are going out every evening all week. Okay.
Mhm.
Monday to
Oh,
Monday.
I'm too old for that.
Monday to Friday. And we're going to do something artistic or cultural or heritage related every evening.
Mhm,
On Monday, we're going to a historic music performance
mhm,
with the Time Machine.
mhm,
On Tuesday, we're going to a theatre play. On Wednesday, we're going to a West End or Broadway musical.
mhm,
Thursday, we're going to the opera. And on Friday, we're going to the movies. And
mhm.
between us, we can decide what we see. Okay.
Yeah.
So for Monday, is there a musical performance that you attended that you'd love to experience again?
A musical performance that I attended that I'd love to experience again. Um, I'd love to hear my late grandmother play. She was a music teacher and she played 15 instruments, everything from the church organ to the flute to the violin, the cello. She tried to teach me, absolutely failed, and like she taught a lot of people. So if and I managed, she kind of terrified me a little bit while growing up, because she had a sort of a bit of a patrician sort of manner to her. And I wish I could hear her play the organ again.
I'll give you that. You can do that.
Mm.
Tuesday, theatre play.
Oh, okay. So theater play, not a musical. Oh, right. Angels in America. We'd be there for and so the two parts, so we have to be there for like 8, 9 hours. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Who's that by?
Oh,
What's it called? Angels in America?
yes. Oh, I don't want to get his name wrong. Hold on, give me a second.
I'm having a look. Tony Kushner?
Yes, that's right.
Great. Excellent. Wonderful. So now we're going to go to the West End for a musical. Now we've got a time machine, don't forget. We can go to a first performance. We can be at the premiere.
Yeah.
What would you like to see?
Oh, it's definitely Fiddler on the Roof. I love Fiddler on the Roof. I've directed Fiddler on the Roof, but seeing it in the 1960s, I love, obviously Topol was in the movie. I would love to see a version with him live.
Mm,
But yeah, Fiddler on the Roof is just such a great show. It seems to be much more, um, well regarded in the last 10 years since they've done the West End revivals, and it was on at the Barbican. I couldn't get tickets. But when I did it in 2018, so many people were like, oh, well, it's got a really sad ending. I don't know if I really like it. I'm like, guys, it's history, for fuck's sake. All right. That's the whole point. And, not every musical needs to end with a happy ending
no,
because, and
great,
yeah.
great choice. Love it. Are you an opera fan,
I
Sarah?
am an opera fan, yeah.
What would you like to see at the Royal Opera House?
So I did a course when I was at university at McGill one summer, and it was all about an introduction to sort of popular opera. And one of my fantastic sort of program directors, Naomi, is a professional opera singer as well, who works at Tricolor. And I got to hear so many different operas, but the one that always sort of stood out for me was Ariadne of Naxos. And
Strauss, Richard
yeah,
Strauss?
I
Yeah,
think so. I think so. Again, we're going back about 25 years. So,
yeah.
I mean, I love Carmen, and I would not proclaim to say I love going to the opera, but there are lots of people who know more about it than I do. But yeah.
I'm in the same boat. Yeah, we did Ariadne auf Naxos at the Guildhall. I studied at the Guildhall
Oh, excellent.
in the Barbican Centre. So one of the highlights for that was we performed Bernstein's Mass, which rarely gets performed because
Oh,
it needs
really?
so many resources. And he came and conducted a rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I got to meet him, which was fantastic. So
Yep, it is Strauss. I just checked.
yeah.
I'm really, really bad with names, and that is one of my versions of my ADHD. I tell everybody I meet, I'm like, I am not an asshole. All right, I just really struggle with names. So please forgive me. I will remember you. All right, but I may not remember your name.
I
So
think I'm numerically dyslexic.
so
I never learnt my times tables at
oh
school.
my
If you asked me
dad.
what 9/8 were, I'd have to work it out.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
yeah,
there
but
are there are better things to do in some.
absolutely, here we are.
Yeah.
So Friday is the last one. I'd like you to, we're going to the IMAX at Waterloo, and it's a huge screen, beautiful surround sound. We've got the best seats in the house. I'd like you to think of a movie that you love that I probably haven't seen.
Oh, that you haven't seen. Now that's difficult. Oh, that you haven't seen. Uh, you're gonna have to clip this bit because it's taking a while to think about it.
No, we don't edit. Sorry, it's
Oh,
fine.
okay, but then I better hurry up. Then I don't know whether you will have seen it or not. I mean, it was pretty big. But I'll tell you what I would like. If we're going to go to the IMAX, then I'd like us to invite Christopher Nolan with us because
Okay.
I'd really like to watch Dunkirk with both of you. And I'd really like to talk to Chris about the fact that he chose not to use CGI, which I understand as an artistic principle, but actually entirely underplayed the true sort of mammoth nature of the little boats coming from all over the United Kingdom, coming down from Scotland. People, I was talking to a lady the other day who was a child and remembers the call out on the radio,
Mm,
and it was over 400,000 people that they were rescuing from those beaches. And that scale of that, what happened, he actually didn't get it in the movie. And when
mm.
it's on IMAX, it's like, why? Because it's history, for fuck's sake. Why have you chosen to interpret it that way?
Yeah,
And
well, they
the
lifted the
scale of it.
equivalent of 3 times the capacity of Wembley Stadium.
Yeah. And it's yeah, so I love Christopher Nolan films. I loved Oppenheimer. I love the fact that he takes on sort of history and stories that people need to know more about. But yeah, I wanted to have a conversation over some wine afterwards as to why that decision.
That's yours. We'll do that. Excellent. Now we're nearly there. I'm going to send you off to complete this wonderful year of work that and research you're going to do. But before I do, I'm going to give you a hero lunch. You can invite any one person to have a leisurely 2-hour lunch with in an authentic Mexican restaurant in London. Okay. It can be
That's
anyone
hard
you,
to come by.
yeah, it can be anyone you like,
Mhm.
and they will turn up, living or not, famous or otherwise. Who would you
Mhm.
choose?
Living or not, famous or otherwise. Um, who would I choose? Uh, that's really difficult. Uh, Probably Elizabeth the First. I'd really love to have a conversation with her and how she is still and tell her how she's still to this day held up as this icon of of feminism and female power in 500 years later. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, the heart of a lion, I think, wasn't it? She says.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Wonderful. There we go. That's your fantasy cultural year completed. You get the TED Talk when you get home, the book deal's done, the TV show is in the can, and you're just about to embark on a global university lecture tour. You become the go-to commentator from matters relating to how the arts and cultural and heritage sectors document history. So there we go. Did you enjoy your fantasy cultural year, Sarah?
I did enjoy my fantasy cultural year. I'm also really pleased to see that you included sport within that because I'm a big believer that culture is actually everything we do outside of work, and for some of us lucky enough that we get to do it for work as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I did enjoy my year.
Brilliant. Now, this is a bit of an experiment.
Mhm.
Next, we're going to play the this or that game.
Okay.
I've just asked ChatGPT to provide me with some more questions so that I
Mhm.
don't run out. So I'm going to give you two options. You have to choose one.
Mhm.
Is that okay?
Yep.
It's fast paced. Are you ready to go?
Okay, so I just have to choose one. So it's this
Yes.
or that. Okay, fine.
I've not read these, so this might go horribly wrong, but I've got more ready if it does. Okay. Canvas or sketchbook?
Sketchbook,
Ballet or breakdance?
ballet,
Shakespeare at the Globe or on film?
on film,
Street art or classical painting?
street art,
Film score or soundtrack of pop songs?
film score,
Bookshop or record store?
bookshop.
Sculpture park or art gallery?
What's the difference? Sculpture park,
Silent film or 3D cinema?
3D cinema.
Matinee or evening?
Oh, it depends on whether I have to go home or not. Evening,
Oil paint or watercolor?
oil paint,
Typewriter or fountain pen?
fountain pen,
Jazz club or poetry slam?
jazz club,
Cinematic epic or indie short film?
cinematic epic,
Stand-up comedy or improv?
stand up.
Costume drama or sci-fi adventure?
Oh, both. Costume drama,
Live theatre or live gig?
live theater,
Director's commentary or blooper reel?
blooper reel. Way better.
Vinyl or streaming?
Viral or streaming?
Vinyl.
Oh, vinyl or streaming?
Yeah.
Vinyl.
Puppetry or animation?
Animation.
Black tie gala or bohemian open mic night?
Bohemian open mic night.
Um, Choreographed dance or freestyle?
Freestyle. They're amazing. I don't know how they
Is
do.
historical fiction or contemporary fiction?
Oh, difficult. Contemporary fiction.
And finally, for these ones, opening night or closing night?
Closing night. Yeah.
I've got a few more if you've got a moment.
Yeah.
These are some of the original ones. I won't do them all. Sparkling or still?
Sparkling.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
High heels or trainers?
Trainers.
Window or aisle seat?
Aisle.
Boiled or fried egg?
Fried.
Horror or comedy?
Both. Horror.
Test the water or dive in at the deep end?
Dive in the deep end.
Yes. Orange juice, bits or no bits?
Oh, with bits, lots of it.
Mozart or Beethoven?
Beethoven.
Cooking or being cooked for?
Both, but being cooked for is really nice.
Sand or snow?
Snow.
Reggae or salsa?
Reggae.
New York or Los Angeles?
New York.
And finally, see the future or change the past?
You do both. See, see the future.
It's got the lottery numbers in it.
Yeah. Well, I dreamed once I was going to win when I was in France, the number 19. So gotta keep buying. Gotta be in it to win it, as they say.
Sarah, thank you so much for being a great sport and doing this. It's been a delight. Thank you very much. There'll be, wherever this appears, there'll be lots of information and links to you and the work that you do. And thanks again for being one of our full members. That's how it works. I hope you've enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you.
And please don't rush off, but thank you very much for sharing your fantasy cultural year.
Okay, yeah, no worries.